Hello again, YouTube. We are back with another iPad repair tutorial. This is an Apple iPad 7th generation, model number A2197. And as you can see, this thing is in terrible shape. The customer told me that their 2-year-old grandchild was told to put the tablet down and they smashed it to pieces. This is a dangerous repair because this glass is going to get everywhere. This is a model where the glass is separate from the LCD screen, which is great because we only have to replace the digitizer, aka the glass on the top. However, because of the shape and just sheer destruction of this screen, it is not going to come out easily, and it is not going to come out in one piece. I can tell you that right now. Also, to keep in mind when doing this repair, the LCD screen is just below this glass, which can be scratched, which can be destroyed, and this can go from a $20 part repair to a $200 repair. You might as well just buy a new tablet. So we want to be very, very, very conscious that we do not scratch or break the screen underneath. As you can see, the screen is still intact by some miracle. I do not understand how the LCD is still working, but it clearly is. I'm going to go ahead and shut this thing off. I'm going to get this because I do not want to touch that glass at all. If you watched my any of my other videos, there was another tablet video I did, and I did get glass in my finger. Guys, this glass in here is the sharpest glass that you're ever going to come across. It's hardest stone, and it will go right through your fingers and not think twice. What we got here, 99.9% rubbing alcohol. Okay. Because this is in such terrible shape, and honestly with most tablets lately, I have been using the assistance of alcohol to break down the adhesive because it's really tough stuff. Now, you want to be mindful of how much alcohol you're putting on, but even if this screen wasn't cracked as badly as it would, badly as it is, the alcohol will absorb in between the glass and the metal frame. So you could just go right around the metal frame. It might seem odd that you're putting liquid into a tablet, but this is 99.9% alcohol. It is not conductive, so it can't hurt any electronic components or complete any circuits to cause any type of a problem. So that's why we're obviously using the 99%. And I do suggest using 99% and not 70 or 65, whatever it is that they sell for health products, because it's got more water in it, and so the higher alcohol, the less chance for any type of circuit damage or anything like that. So as you can see, I'm not going light on this by any means. I'm giving this a healthy. I don't know if you guys are counting how many times I've gone around this thing, but feel free to count. I'm not counting personally. I'm just making sure that I get a very good bit of saturation in here. I'm going to let that sit for a little while and break down the adhesive as best as it's going to do. And then we're going to tape the entire screen with packing tape to try to keep as much of this glass contained as possible. I do recommend wearing safety glasses and taking your time, because again, you get into a rush, as I've done before. If you get into a rush, you're going to get glass into your fingers, and it is not going to be pleasant, and you will bleed. and you will have a hard time to stop that cut from bleeding because the glass is so incredibly sharp. It's basically like sticking a razor blade into your finger. So there we go. I've got a nice healthy dose of that put on, and we're going to let that sit for a moment, and then once that's soaked in quite a bit, we'll move on to the next step. Okay, I let that sit for roughly 10 minutes or so. Now I'm going to take a soft plastic bristle brush. This is an optional step, and I'm just going to rub across the screen and any glass that's loose that could easily get lodged in my fingers. I'm just gonna sweep it off just to kind of be sure that everything that's left is sort of attached to itself. And I think that's about as good as it's going to get. Alright, so next up, packing tape. I'm just using some Easy Start duct tape. It doesn't really matter. This is mostly just for the purpose of keeping a lot of the loose glass from going flying in the air or flying into my eye. I'm going to use a little plastic card. You could use a credit card or debit card. It doesn't really matter, just to try to make sure that the tape is adhering to the glass as much as it possibly can. So again, that way it does not end up in my finger. So once I get the tape on, I just kind of run over it with the card. You'll see that it's really sticking. Try to get any air bubbles out, because air bubbles means it's not sticking. So just trying to get as much of that out as I can. Be very careful of your fingers when you're sliding something around on this, because if you slide down, it's all it's going to take, and you're going to have glass in your fingers, and it's not going to feel good. Alright, so I've lost my tape. Somehow I lost the end of my tape. So I'm just trying to peel that back off. This weather's starting to get cold here, and I hate it. Alright, here we go. Oh, damn. So when I peeled this, I didn't get all of the tape. This tape sucks. I hadn't had a problem with this tape until this very moment. But of course, and then I'm not overlapping the tape at all. I'm just trying to line it up as close as I can to the other pieces of tape. This is again just for the purposes of trying to keep the glass in one piece. And I'm just going to go ahead and put the tape all on, and then I'll go back and smooth it all out. And then on this last piece, because it's not big enough for a full piece of tape, so you don't want these air bubbles like this. So I did a kind of a poor job on that piece of tape. You definitely don't want all those air bubbles. And again, when you're pressing down the screen, be mindful that you're not pressing down into the LCD below the glass. On the last piece here is what I'm going to do. I'm not overlapping any tape, but instead I'm going to just let it hang off the side. And then I'm going to push it down. Make sure all this is down as good as it's going to get. Going side to side against the tape's better for getting air bubbles out. You don't want to chase an air bubble all the way up the screen, or you could just go off the side and pop that out. You're not going to get every single shard, but the idea is to get as much adhesion on the glass as you can. And then I'm going to take a little hobby knife and I'm just going to cut very gently around the edge so that I can remove this excess tape that I'm not going to need. And then there we go. Alright, so now we're fully taped up. We're all taped up. This is much safer for your fingers to be working with than just having exposed glass. I am going to try to clean up whatever glass came off with my brush really quick, just to kind of make sure that that doesn't go into my hands. While I'm making the repair. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to get some heat. And we are going to heat up the edge of the tablet. I'm using a hot air gun set at a pretty high temperature. You can absolutely use a hair dryer. You can use you can buy these from iFixit. I'll be honest, you basically microwave these and let them sit on the edges. They're not bad, but a heat gun seems to kind of get to the point a little faster. So I've got my heat gun set very, very high. I'll tell you once it maxes out. I think I'm at about 800 if I'm not mistaken. Almost 900 degrees. It will 100% melt the edge of the tape. That's okay. This is definitely not coming out easily, regardless of what you do. We're going to be very likely pulling little shards of glass out from around the screen indefinitely. So again, the tape will curl a little bit, but you don't want it to just completely peel off. So if it starts to do that, you can put something up there against it just to keep it from rolling way back on you. Unfortunately, you do really got to get the heat in there and on that glass, or the adhesive is not going to get soft. And if it doesn't get soft, well, you're going to fight really hard to get this glass out of here. So I'm doing a general overall heating, basically heating all the edges right now to give it an initial sort of hit of heat, and then I'm going to probably likely have to go around in the different areas and heat it and remove the glass, kind of heat and remove situation, because again, this is not going to be coming out at all in one piece, but we already know that. So these are the worst types of tablet repairs to do as far as screens are concerned, whether it's broken, because again, it is just very dangerous because of how many pieces of glass. And it's also time consuming, because you have to take your time, because if you don't, you will get cut or damage the iPad further, and you don't want to do that. So basically I'm just heating, and as I'm heating I'm kind of taking a peek around at the glass and seeing where a good entry point might be. We will try to do this the conventional way at first, but again, I really don't think that that's going to work. And the conventional way would be that you would use a suction cup and get underneath of a corner, or excuse me, one of the sides. Usually this side's a good side. But I don't even think I'm going to get any good suction on here, and it's just so badly broken. So, that being the case, I'm going to pull my chair up. We're going to be here for a minute, and I'm going to start seeing what we can get in, where we can get in at. I use basically like guitar picks. These are from iFixit. They've just came with different parts I've ordered from them. They seem to be pretty good. We got lucky, so basically I could already see this was a little loose. So we're gonna just take our pick. I'm here to tell you that using alcohol, it tremendously helps. It tremendously helps. So we're just gonna see, man, this guy might actually not be as bad as I thought to get off. We're just gonna leave some picks in where we've already pulled up on it. And I'm just gonna work around. Now you do not want to stick the picks under the glass very far. And I'm sorry if you can't really see what I'm doing. You will when I get to the other side. Alright, give me a moment, I have a phone call. Spam calls. Always spam callers bothering me when I'm trying to get stuff done. Alright. So again, we're just moving this pick just ever so slightly. You'll notice that where it's cracked, when you're pulling your pick down, that it won't go under a part where it's cracked at so easily. So sometimes you have to, if you can twist the pick in a position to where it will actually ride under the glass rather than over. So this is actually coming out really nicely. I'm not gonna lie. We've gotten almost a great portion of this whole side off already, and this is great. So again, guys, alcohol is your best friend. I didn't not use alcohol on doing these repairs for a couple years, and it was an absolute nightmare, absolute pain. The glass again is so tough, the adhesive is so that you gotta get a really crazy amount of heat on this stuff to actually be able to pull the adhesive from the frame or get in between there. So I definitely 100% recommend using alcohol, because that really makes a tremendous difference. And again, it's not going to hurt anything. I've done a bunch of these repairs. All the tablets I've repaired have been fine and worked well. And we have a customer. Good morning. Any damage to any of your circuitry or anything like that. However, it will greatly help in breaking down the adhesive. Okay. Take this again with a little more heat. This is definitely a time-consuming process, guys, and again, you can't rush it. When you try to rush, you're going to get hurt. So just take your time. If it starts feeling too hard, like it's not moving on you, You can't get the glass to come up. Probably need a little more heat. The adhesive on the bottom is definitely the thickest spot, meaning this is the thickest part of adhesive is down here at the bottom. So the bottom can be a bit of a challenge. This does not want to come up right here, and this stuff is just shattering now, which is not pleasant. And again, wear your safety glasses, because if you get the glass in your eyes, man, you're done, and you will need to go to the hospital. Okay, there we go. So as you can see, guys, this is just not wanting to come out very pleasantly. Anytime you touch this glass, you just be very careful that you're not getting any glass shards into your fingers, because it will happen and it will hurt. Okay, so we're just gonna keep trying to get under here. This adhesive is just tough as heck. We're gonna more alcohol. Can't really overdo it. You can definitely overdo it, but you can be generous on that. Again, just be mindful of where your fingers are. Be careful around the home button. There is definitely some sensitive cables running to the home button. You do not want to cut any of that, because you do have to reuse the home button. The home button must be reused, or the customer or yourself will lose Touch ID. So we're definitely being careful as we can around the home button. Come up under here and just see if I can't get any of this with another angle. As you can see, there's glass shards everywhere. Doesn't hurt to have a little paper towel handy, with like maybe some Windex, or you could also use the rubbing alcohol if you like. Just kind of get any loose glass shards so they don't cut you wide open. Again, we're just trying to get a little bit of access here. So under the home button, the glass is split, and it just barely doesn't want to let me get under it. There we go. But now it didn't let me get onto the other side. So another little thing just to show you. You do not want that going into your finger. That is a very, very dangerous piece of glass right there. And we leave the picks in where we've already removed the adhesive, because we don't want it to seal back up. And there we go, got under it, but it just shattered. This is just nasty. When in doubt, more alcohol, more heat. But I promise the alcohol is tremendously beneficial to breaking that adhesive down. Another phone call. Another spam call. And this is really just playing hard to get right now. It just does not want to come off. Basically, when you're doing this, you're just looking for any way. These picks are kind of thick in comparison to the gap under the glass, and so it's very challenging, and it does take sometimes a little bit of force to get this pick moving, which is another reason to be extremely careful, because If you're putting great force on something, then you could easily ram your finger into a piece of this glass. And again, I can't stress to you enough how dangerous this glass is. And I'm just trying to get under this little piece of adhesive right here, and it's giving me problems. So I've got the glass off, and there's just some free adhesive sitting here, and I'm trying to get my pick just under it so I can hopefully run it up even further. But it is not happy. Lots of heat in there. Try to get this stuff a little looser so that we can get it up out of here. Again, guys, these are terrible repairs, just so you know. Just absolute terrible. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if I said this earlier in the video or not, but this is a customer that brought this in. I think they had said that their 2-year-old grandchild had this, and that they were told to put it down, and they slammed it down and shattered it to pieces. So keep these things out of 2-year-olds' hands, guys. Don't even give them the chance. I know some of you love your kids, but this definitely could have been avoided. So again, taking our time. I'm just trying to get under this side here. Now on the right side, guys, there is the cables that connect both the digitizer and the home button. So you definitely want to be careful. The digitizer screen, or the digitizer cable, is not super important because we're going to be replacing it. But if you if you get under that home button and tear that home button, the user or yourself will lose Touch ID functionality. Come on, baby, just work. It's coming. This one's starting to get it good. I just hope it continues to play nice with me, because if it does, we should have this side out fairly quickly. Now you shouldn't stick the pick in too far again, but I can see what's under here and that I'm not touching the LCD, so I don't know why my doorbell's freaking out. Sorry about that, but it's just freaking out. It's freaking out. It's probably complaining about how horrible this tablet has been taken care of. Alright, so at this point we may be able to fold this guy up. And I think that's what I'm going to do, because we've come kind of far enough. There's only a little bit of stuff, and this is all on this side is just completely shattered. So what I'm going to do, come back up here and make sure all that stuff's loose again. And we're just going to try to Okay. And there we go. Got the majority of it out. Now, we need to get this disconnected. Here is the Touch ID cable. And here is the home button cable. And just to give you some idea, the home button is about 1 inch from the bottom, and the digitizer cable is about 3 1/4 inches from the bottom. Some factual numbers are always helpful. Next, before I go getting any more glass or anything like that, we want to get this LCD out of here, because we need to get it out, for one, to access the cables underneath of it, but also I want to get this out of here so that no damage can happen to it while I'm getting the rest of the glass and cleaning everything inside. You can't see the screw holes up at the top, but they're exactly in the same place as the bottom, so you can just kind of push your screwdriver down into the black. You're gonna rip a little of that black film that they have over top hiding those screws, and that is just fine. It's not gonna matter. So we'll get all 4 of those screws. It's just a Phillips head screwdriver. Okay, had to take that phone call. Alright, so we got our 4 screws out of the LCD. So now this part you should kind of prepare for, because what we'll have to do, we're gonna have to tilt the screen up. We're gonna move the bottom back a little bit to loosen that cable up, and then we have to take off the cover that is underneath where the attachments to the digitizer, the LCD, and the home button are, and that is a little pocket down here underneath. You're about to see when I lift this guy up. I highly recommend lifting it from the screw holes, and do not go under the LCD and pull it from the bottom, or you could absolutely damage the LCD, and then this repair job is gonna end up costing you a little more. So I'm just trying to get under there. It definitely does feel as if it, you know, there's some resistance. So we just want to get under there, pop it a little bit if we can. And there's one side. And so it's a little stuck on this side. Just nice and slow. You would definitely want to take your time. Make sure that it's actually loose and free before you go pulling too hard on it, because LCDs are very fragile. And this guy's being a pain in the butt. Pain in the butt. So again, I'm just trying to get under that side. And it doesn't want to come up. You got to be very careful that you don't damage this LCD while you're doing this. Okay, there we go. So we've got the LCD. We're going to come straight up. We're going to lift the bottom. I'm trying to get my hands out of the way so you can see. And we're going to tuck that guy and set the bottom about here. Okay, so in here we have 3 screws we got to take off, which is covering the connection for the LCD itself, the digitizer, and the home button. I believe most of the newer iPads have used Torx screws on this, so you do need special screwdrivers. This one, fortunately, can all be done with just the Phillips head screwdriver, which I can promise you is no longer the case with Apple. They've gotten more and more selfish over the years, And they're just doing more and more messed up stuff to make repairs more expensive so that they can sell more Apple iPads. Okay. So we're going to pop this off. I'm going to grab this phone here soon. We'll pop this guy. You can just go under it. There we go. And there's the LCD out, and I'll be right back. Basically gonna just save all of that for a rainy day if someone else needs a home button down the road and is willing to lose their Touch ID. Well, then we'll have one for them. But for this particular customer, they want their own. Now there's still probably gonna be some glass. You can see it's a little hard to see, guys, and I'm sorry I don't have a zoom feature, but there's still a little bit of glass around the home button. Just carefully take that off. Don't get cut. Again, worst glass in the world. You don't want to get cut with this stuff. Okay, so we're just peeling that off of the button. And then there's still a little bit on this cable. That is the most delicate spot, so I wouldn't even be using the tool if you can help it. Just try to peel it off as best as you can. You can use a little plastic tool if you want, just to kind of scrape it if you think you can without damaging the cable. Again, I'm just trying to, you know what, probably not a smart idea to leave this here. So we're gonna put this over here for a second while we're just finishing this button and getting this glass off of the rest of the home button. Okay, so I am now working on, this is just one of the metal sides of the metal pads. So it's metal, so I can use the knife and just get under this glass because it just doesn't want to come off. Okay, I believe we've got all of that. Excuse me, all of that's off. All right. So now we just need to get that set up on the new tablet. This is a little bit of a tricky part, I should say. Let's see what we got on the back of this button. So, when you install this new button, it's very important that you test it as you're installing it, because on the back of this button, it's very challenging to see. I do apologize again, but if you can see it, I'm gonna try to get it up close so you can, close as I can without. So on the back of the holder, there's a little piece of metal that sticks out. That needs to align perfectly with the little button that's on the back of the home button, because that is the home button. That little guy is all that is responsible for when you press that button, that they know, that the machine knows that you've hit it. So you can take the whole assembly, kind of just loosely put it in there. And then you just want to be absolutely sure what I'll usually do is I'll get it into place where I think it's supposed to be, and then I will hold these two tabs down with my thumbs. Open the little protective case on the bottom just so I can, and then I want to feel that I'm feeling, that I can feel that click happening. And you'll feel it. And you can hear it a little too. If that happens, likely it's in the correct position. I personally use a little bit of super glue. Just a dab of a dot on both. And then again, quickly, before that dries too much, you better make sure that you got that clicky, clicky, clicky action, which I do. So now we just apply a little pressure to that. Give it another test, just to be sure nothing moved. And we still have clicky clicky, so that's great. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry and then we'll move on to the next spot.